the world officially enters the danger zone. In the hours following a series of airstrikes on Iranian port facilities, insurance companies across London and Singapore quietly stop issuing coverage for oil tankers operating in the Persian Gulf. No serious shipping company sails without insurance, which means the ships stop moving. 20 million barrels of oil per day, roughly 1/5 of everything the world burns, are now locked inside the Persian Gulf. In Europe, fuel prices jump 30% within 48 hours. In Asia, panic buying begins. Economists start using a word they've been avoiding: recession. But here's the strangest part. This has happened before. In 1973, in 1980, in 2019, when Iran seized 3 tankers right inside the strait. We have known for half a century that this narrow corridor is the Achilles heel of the global economy, and in 50 years we have never built a real alternative. Why not? And does one actually exist? Today, we'll look at 3 engineering plans that have been sitting on strategists' desks for decades. One of them just landed back on the agenda of some of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds, and it's far more radical than you might expect. Why Hormuz is a trap. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a body of water, it's a hostage of geography. At its narrowest point, the strait is about 33 kilometers wide, but the actual shipping lanes are even smaller. 2 corridors of roughly 3.7 kilometers each, one inbound, one outbound. Through these lanes flows roughly 20 million barrels of oil and 4 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas every single day. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Iraq, none of these countries has a direct route to the open ocean. They have the Persian Gulf, and from the Gulf there is only one exit. Alternatives have been tried. Saudi Arabia built the Petroline pipeline, which runs across the entire Arabian Peninsula to Red Sea ports. The UAE completed the ADCO pipeline in 2012, connecting its oil fields directly to the port of Fujairah, outside the strait entirely. But combined, these pipelines can move only around 5 to 6 million barrels per day. The remaining 14 to 15 million still depend entirely on the strait. One incident, an attack on a platform, a grounded tanker, a naval mine, and the world economy feels it almost instantly, which is exactly what's happening right now. The world needs another way out. The Musandam Canal. The most obvious idea: dig a canal straight through the Musandam Peninsula. This is the northern tip of Oman, a jagged wedge of land that juts directly into the Strait of Hormuz, like a natural checkpoint. On a flat map, the solution looks almost too easy. In several places, the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman are separated by just dozens of kilometers of land. But the map is lying. Musandam is not desert, it's the Hajjar Mountains, sharp limestone peaks that in places rise more than 2,000 meters above sea level. To cut a canal here, capable of handling very large crude carriers, ships up to 350 meters long, with a draft of 20 to 25 meters, you would need to physically remove entire mountain ridges. Engineers estimate the volume of excavated rock would be comparable to several of the largest mining operations in history running simultaneously. The cost? Somewhere between $50 and $100 billion, depending on whose calculations you trust. For comparison, the Panama Canal expansion completed in 2016 cost around $5 billion. But there is a problem that money cannot fix. Even if the canal were built, it would run just a few dozen kilometers from the Iranian coastline, the same coastline from which tankers were attacked in 2019, the same coastline from which any shipping route, old or new, can be threatened at any moment. This would not solve the problem. It would simply move it a few kilometers to the west, which is exactly why the most ambitious plan goes in a completely different direction. The Trans-Arabian. The Trans-Arabian Canal, a direct route more than 650 kilometers long, cutting from the Persian Gulf straight through Saudi Arabia to the Arabian Sea, 3 times the length of the Suez Canal. Far from any active conflict zone, and in theory, capable of replacing Hormuz entirely. The concept has existed in strategic planning documents since the 1970s, but today, in the wake of the 2026 crisis, it is back on the table of serious investors for the first time in a generation. Why now? Because three technologies have emerged that make the project possible in ways it simply wasn't before. Challenge 1: the desert. Roughly 400 kilometers of the route passes through the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter. It is the largest continuous sand desert on Earth. Dunes here can reach the height of a 5-story building and shift by several meters every year. An open canal would be buried within a decade. Engineers are proposing a solution that would have sounded like science fiction just a few years ago, and which Saudi Arabia is already testing as part of the NEOM mega-project. Massive solar-powered robotic installations, essentially large-scale 3D printers, would move along the canal route and fuse the desert sand in place using high-powered lasers on-site, converting it into a strong glass-ceramic lining. The raw material is literally underfoot. It is resistant to erosion and sand movement, and unlike concrete, it does not crack or subside on shifting granular ground. The technology has not yet been deployed at this scale, but the underlying principle, laser sintering of silicate sand, already works in laboratory conditions. NEOM is currently testing it for road construction in desert environments. Challenge 2: evaporation. An open canal in a desert where temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius is essentially a giant evaporator. Projected water losses could reach billions of liters per day. The proposed solution: a continuous array of floating solar panels covering the canal surface. They generate energy for the project and simultaneously shade the water, dramatically reducing evaporation. Challenge 3: salinity. The Persian Gulf is one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth. In some areas, salinity is nearly twice that of a typical ocean. This accelerates corrosion, destroys conventional concrete linings, and devastates ecosystems. Glass ceramic is chemically inert, which makes it potentially the only practical lining material for a canal of this kind. Total project cost in current estimates ranges from $500 billion to $1 trillion. To put that in context, this is roughly equivalent to Saudi Arabia's entire annual GDP, or the combined assets of several of the Gulf's largest sovereign wealth funds. Impossible? Perhaps, but in 1850, the Suez Canal also seemed impossible. The side effect that changes everything. But the most unexpected thing about this project is not the canal itself, it's what the canal would bring with it. Along the entire 650-kilometer route, the plan calls for a network of next-generation desalination plants powered by the solar arrays covering the canal. The purified water would serve not just the canal itself, but irrigation for the surrounding land. Calculations suggest an agricultural belt 20 to 40 kilometers wide along the canal could create a farming zone comparable in area to several small European countries, in one of the most barren deserts on the planet. This is not fantasy. Israel irrigates the Negev desert and produces enough food to export globally. The UAE has grown mangrove forests on salt flats. The difference here is scale. The project would generate 500,000 to 1 million jobs in the construction phase alone. Long-term employment in agriculture, logistics, and port infrastructure would be equivalent to building several new cities from scratch. Some climate scientists cautiously point to another effect. A large body of water and a green corridor running through the center of the Arabian Peninsula would alter local climate patterns, raising humidity, reducing peak temperatures in the surrounding region. The numbers are still preliminary, but the direction is clear. This is not a canal that connects two seas. It is a canal that transforms what lies between them. But there is one problem. There are many engineering obstacles, but there is one that no laser can cut through: politics. The canal route runs through Saudi Arabian territory. Its completion requires Oman's agreement. The exit into the Arabian Sea passes through Omani waters. It requires coordination with Qatar and the UAE, whose export flows must be integrated into the new route. And it requires money that no single country possesses, meaning international investors, sovereign funds, and possibly China, which has already invested hundreds of billions of dollars in port infrastructure across the world through the Belt and Road Initiative. There is also a more fundamental question that strategists keep returning to. Does the canal eliminate vulnerability or simply relocate it? Any artificial waterway can be blocked. A single grounded container ship paralyzed the Suez Canal for 6 days in 2021. A deliberate attack on a canal running through open desert, far from military bases and coast guards, presents a different kind of risk profile entirely. And yet, the distinction matters. Hormuz is not just a choke point. It is a choke point that no single state can threaten unilaterally from its own territory at any moment. A new canal would be vulnerable, but not as a lever in the hands of a single hostile state. The crisis of March 2026 is not the first, and if the world does not change its infrastructure, it will not be the last. The Musandam Canal is too close to the conflict zone and too geologically punishing. Pipelines are a partial answer. The Trans-Arabian Canal is the most ambitious, the most expensive, and possibly the only solution that actually changes the rules of the game. 3 conditions must be met for it to become reality: the political will of several governments simultaneously, international financing on a scale comparable to the Marshall Plan, and the technology, part of which already exists, part of which is maturing right now in NEOM's research facilities. None of these conditions are in place today, but crises have a way of making the impossible feel inevitable. In 1956, Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal. The world said it was impossible. Within a few years, it was simply a fact on the map. The Trans-Arabian Canal may be the most expensive and most complex infrastructure project in human history, but history teaches us one thing: when the world has enough reasons to build something, it gets built. Will this canal become reality or remain a strategic dream? Let us know in the comments. This was Fact Vault. Together, we look toward the future.